Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today we're going to do a wrap up of the month of May, Zombiethon, and all the books that I've read. And I'm also going to be looking ahead to June and give a little bit of a teaser for how I've sorted out my TBR for that month. Stay tuned. Okay, I've had a fairly mixed reading month this month of May. I've read a couple of DNFs and a couple of 4-star reads and one mammoth book of zombies, which for me was a 5-star and just pure quality. There's also a book I'm still busy with which I'll review next month. So without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, I attempted to read The Resurrectionists, an extreme novel by Roth James White. And it was not to my liking at all. I found it disgusting, not terrifying, and some of the scenes were just sickening, just more torture porn than anything else, and I just put it down. It's not worth my time trying to fight through that and get to the end. So that was a DNF for me, for sure. The second DNF is a book by J.N. Williamson, Dead to the World. Now, I really tried to read this book. I know that it was recommended by one of my viewers, or at least he said it was an underrated book, and I just really could not get past the writing style. I found it incredibly difficult to understand what was going on with the characters, and I think I got about to page 50 and I really just gave up. You know, I've got a new policy. If a book is not grabbing me, or if it's really disappointing and I'm not enjoying it and I'm struggling through it, I'm going to put it down. Life is too short. There are too many books out there, too many wonderful books out there to waste your time on something that you're really not enjoying. I'm sure you'd agree. Okay, let's move on now to the excellent stuff, the good stuff. First of all, the Mammoth Book of Zombies. Now, in my last video, during the reading update, I reviewed about 5 of the stories. There's 25 or 26 stories in there. The one novella that I really enjoyed, on the far side of the desert, the Cadillac Desert with dead folk. And today I'm going to be looking at another 4 or 5 stories as well. This is an absolute quality collection. The stories are so diverse, such interesting takes on the zombie genre, and not all the same old. And you've got authors all the way back from Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, all the way to more modern writers as well. So there really is a bit of everything in this compilation. Okay, first up we have a story by Graham Masterton, The Taking of Mr. Bill. Now this is a chilling, disturbing little tale. Graham Masterton is a prolific author already. I've read a number of his books, but this was a great little short story. And it's about a mother, Marjorie, who is walking her child home in a pram, a baby, in the driving rain, and she gets accosted by a stranger. And a stranger rapes her and captures her child, hence the taking of Mr. Bill. But it gets kind of weird and eerie from then on, because the investigations find things about this man that are rather unusual. It's a shocking ending as well. I can't really talk much more about the story without giving anything away, but it's a real shocking, chilling ending. So that is The Taking of Mr. Bill by Graham Masterton. Next up we have Later by Michael Marshall Smith. Now, Michael Marshall Smith is apparently a best-selling author of a number of novels, and after reading this short story, I'm looking forward to trying to find some of his longer work as well. Now this is a very sad, poignant, kind of disturbing little story about a couple of lovers who are about to go to a party, and then something absolutely awful happens. And I can't really say what that thing is, but really it is kind of terrifying, really, what happens to this couple and what happens as a result of this terrible thing. But yeah, I found it kind of gripping but chilling, and very original twist on the zombie tale, and well worth looking out for. That is Later by Michael Marshall Smith. And just to add to that, it's not a kind of in-your-face, gnawing faces off zombie tale. It's something altogether more quieter, but more disturbing for that, and very, very interesting. Okay, the third short story I'm going to talk about is Night After the Night of the Living Dead by Christopher Fowler. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, the movie. Absolutely fantastic. But in this story, as told through the eyes of a young boy, let's think logically about what would really happen if the dead rise up. Would they really be able to dig their way out of the ground? Would they really be gnawing at people and eating brains? So this is a very, very original story, just an original take taken from the viewpoint of a young boy of what would happen if the dead rise up. And I found it very, very interesting the way he wrote about something that could happen like that. It's also the ending, when we see the boy for who he is. It's kind of creepy and left a bad taste in my mouth. But all in all, a really good story. Okay, the fourth book is They're Coming For You by Les Daniels. Now, this is a brutally hilarious tale about a husband who gets off work early because he's got a headache, and he comes home to find noises upstairs, and his wife is in bed with a stranger doing the bad deed. And he decides he's angry, his headache disappears, and he decides to take matters into his own hands. And it's violent, it's hilarious, it's brutal, it's just very, very funny. And you can imagine that since the title is They're Coming For You, yeah, it's really silly, but strangely disturbing, hilarious, and as I said, pretty brutal as well at the end. That is They're Coming For You. Now, other standouts in this collection are Sticks by Carl Edward Wagner, which is an awesome, so almost Lovecraftian tale, if I remember correctly, and Herbert West Reanimator by H.P. Lovecraft, and of course there's also Edgar Allan Poe and a whole bunch of others. What you need to do is get hold of this collection and read it for yourselves. It is absolutely classic, and it is full of quality. Okay, next up we move on to some 4-star novels that I've read this month. First of all, The Rising, which I talked about in my last video with the update. Now, this is a highly original zombie apocalypse tale. Really, really awesome book, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. But if you want to know more about it, you need to go back to that video. I gave a more thorough review on that video. Okay, next up we have an awesome middle grade book that I really did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. It was actually almost a 5-star for me. I haven't read any YA books for a long time, but this was just beautiful, awesome. And that is Skullduggery Pleasant. Now, it's about a young girl whose uncle passes away, and she meets this detective who was friends with her uncle. This detective happens to also be a magician, and this detective also happens to be dead, a skeleton. And these two had this adventure. They kind of pair up as this unlikely team, and she gets drawn into this world of magic and mayhem. There's goodies and baddies and just the most amazing characters you could meet, especially these two. And this is fast-paced, it's a fantasy, it's action-packed, and some of the dialogue is just out of this world. And as you can see here, I've actually picked a couple of pages that I'd like to read to you, just to give you an idea of the relationship between this young girl and this dead detective. And what about magic? What about it? Will you teach me? You don't even know if you're capable of doing magic. How do I find out? Is there a test or something? Yes, we cut off your head, and if it grows back you can do magic. You're being funny again, aren't you? So glad you noticed. So will you teach me? I'm not a teacher, I'm a detective. I already have a career. Alright, it's just, I really like to learn, and you know it all. Your flattery is subtle. Okay? And on another page. So you won't keep anything from me again. He put his hand to his chest. Cross my heart and hope to die. Okay. He nodded and led the way back to the Bentley. Though you don't actually have a heart, she said. I know. And technically you're already dead. I know that too. Just so we're clear. I absolutely love the relationship between these two characters. This is a gorgeously written novel. It's magical. Like I said, it's action-packed. It's full of danger. The baddies are pretty bad as well. And there's some really interesting characters, good characters as well. It's well worth digging into. And it's also part of, I think, a 15-part series. So I'm definitely going to have to track down some more of the series. Skullduggery Pleasant. Righty then, what do you get when you mix up a gothic literary classic, beloved by many, with an orphan that is mistreated and basically grows up and falls in love, and you mix that with a little bit of monsters, vampires, zombies, and a bit of humour, then you get the mishmash that is Jane Slayer. Now, it's important to note that I loved Jane Eyre when I was a student. I think out of all the classics that I had to read at university, that was my favourite. Yes, it's a love story, but there's so much more to it. And just because that was a great book didn't mean that I couldn't enjoy this any less. It's also a lot of fun. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about it was that in the original, Jane Eyre is strong-willed, she's tough, she's determined, and she's passionate about things. And in this particular book, they didn't screw that up. The heroine is the same in the story. She's tough, she's resilient, she's passionate, and she just happens to have Slayer blood running through her veins, where she learns to kill off monsters. Now, really, this was a wonderful surprise as well. I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did. And even if you're a die-hard classic fan, and you read Jane Eyre and you loved it, and you worry that this is going to spoil it, okay, for some people perhaps it did. But then, you just got to go into it with an open mind that this is a wonderful story. Now, as I said, in Jane Slayer there are similarities between the character, the heroine, also the basic outline of the plot of Jane Eyre kind of holds true to the story as well. Just to give you an example of how it's changed slightly, okay, to make it into a paranormal adventure. At the beginning, Jane Eyre is a young orphan, and she's staying with her awful aunt and cousins. She's a poor little orphan, she's not wanted. In this book, she's also staying with her aunt and cousins that are very horrible to her. But in this particular novel, those cousins and the aunt happen to be a family of vampires. And they treat her like crap. And look, as she grows up a little bit, she's sent off to this boarding school, same as in the original. And in this boarding school, she has to learn how to fight off zombies. Very different kind of zombies. And I'm not going to give anything more, I don't want to spoil it. But like I say, this is a highly entertaining read. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I advise you to pick it up. Okay everyone, I've got a confession to make. I'm still busy with Cell, Stephen King. I'm more than halfway through. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's actually quite an original take on the vampires, whole idea. Not vampires, sorry, zombies. With a cell phone signal sends off this pulse and the world goes to hell. But what I really like about this, is kind of interesting, is that these cell phone crazy people actually sort of, I don't know if they become intelligent, but they get this kind of hive mind where they kind of flock together, and so it's kind of intriguing. It's an interesting take. Look, it's not nearly as good as some of the other Stephen King novels I've read before, but this is certainly not bad, and I'm definitely going to finish this off, and I'll give a proper review next month when I've done it on my next reading update. That is Cell by Stephen King. Right everyone, that's the end of my May wrapped up and done. I did say at the beginning of this video that I'd give you a little bit of a hint into what's going to happen in June. I've decided in June I'm going to not do so much readathons or anything like that. I'm going to pick my TBR for June based on my viewers' recommendations over the last 4 or 5 months since I've been a booktuber. Because so many of you have written in the comments below books that you really like and adore, and I've gone through every comment and I've tried to build my TBR based on that. So that will be my next video, my June TBR. But I hope you enjoyed that. Take care of yourselves. Please like and subscribe and comment below, and take care of yourselves. Keep those pages turning. Cheers.